ship all over so basically what we do is we do panelized framing, and we ship that all over the country. We've shipped stuff to Prague, we've shipped stuff to the islands. We've done over 1,000 little houses, tiny houses and small homes. This is one of the houses that you see a lot on social media. This is a 1,200 square foot house that we put together in a day. Jayson and I are in this video, we're the only people in this video that ever touched the steel before. So, there's a couple of guys, probably friends of Jayson's, that we recruited to come out, and they thought it'd be fun to frame a house in a day, and they may have had a different view at the end of the day. It was a long day. But one of the things that obviously we love about the framing is that anybody can do it. That's we're gonna fall off the cliff in the construction industry from a framing point of view in a few years. There's not going to be anybody to go out there and frame houses because most framers are my age, and we slowed down about 10 years ago, and now we're about to retire out. And there's not a lot of young people sitting in classes like this willing to go out there. And if they are going to the trades, they're probably not swinging a hammer. They're probably going to go into MEP stuff. They're going to go, they know they can make money doing, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, welding. All the trades, but carpentry specifically is going to be really challenging. I'll skip this for a second. So this is a project I was working on in Abu Dhabi. So this is Foster's and Partners. So we've worked with every major architect, anyone you've heard of. We've probably worked with them on some project somewhere in the world in my other company. This was a project, this image from the fire, because we're out here to talk about the Palisades in Altadena. We've got meetings this week up there because this is a great way to kind of go and we need to build a lot of houses quickly. We're a great company to go, and we hope to go up there and do a lot of good. So this project in Abu Dhabi, this is the beginning of our steel journey, because there was this was an old souk in Abu Dhabi, burned down, and then what came after that was this Foster and Partners, the 3 tallest towers in Abu Dhabi. It's this amazing souk, won all kinds of awards for engineering and for architecture, but unfortunately the engineer forgot to put enough structure in the building to allow us to put the mezzanines in 400 of our retail spaces. So, that happens. Normally over there they just go, yeah, bad luck, you don't get mezzanine, except the people that own that dirt were some of the most influential families in Abu Dhabi, so they said, go, you have to fix this way to solve it. So, because it's the Middle East and because you have a lot of Antipodeans and people from Australia and New Zealand there, that was because 25% of the houses down there are all made with roll forming machines. So it's very common technology there, very uncommon here. But so when we started to look around, this was the only system that we could find that was light enough to go into the existing structure, but strong enough for us to put these mezzanines in. So we did that, kind of learned, it's like, I still remember the first time I saw the machine, because most people go, okay, it's a machine, but I saw that one, that's amazing, because I started as a framer. I've done, every trade over the course of just, working my way through school and all that. So, yeah, I saw that there was, the potential in the machines and what it could do. So we sort of, went back to building big shopping centers, and then the recession hit over there, and all of our work stopped, laid everybody off. And then that's when, I think that's the image. Oh, this is just another, this is a souk. It's an amazing building. It's terrible retail, which you get a lot of times with the star architects that come in and do this beautiful building, but there's 400 tenants there and you can't see any of them. So it was kind of a disaster from a retail point of view, but it was a beautiful building. The carpentry work was unbelievable. So this is sort of when Jayson and I started with the machine. So during the recession over there, they'd never had one before. This is the big one, back in 2009 and 10. So we created a modular retail store that we could put into vacant stores overnight, and we could take it out in about 4 hours. So we'd go in and we'd put these in, during the off hours of the mall. There was nothing there, it was a vacant store. In the morning you come back and we'd have one of these stores in. And the steel was an important part of that, because we could reuse it over and over again. It went up quick, it was straight, and that worked really well. So we did that for a couple years. I'd meant to go over there for 2 years, maybe 3, and I ended up being there for 8. So when things got better, I brought my family back to the US. I was going to come back to California, but I wasn't going to start 2 businesses in California again at the time, because it was, it's still challenging. It was challenging 10 years ago. So we landed in Austin, and we bought a machine to do this, to do retail projects, because that's what I've done 11,000 stores over the course of my career in my other company. So we've always been retail, and that's what we started to do with this. And then we kept getting phone calls about something called a tiny house, and I'd been out of the country, so we didn't know what that was. So we kind of looked around and went, okay, it makes sense to build that out of steel because it's lighter, it's stronger, all the benefits, it's better in vibration, all the things that you know about the roll forming systems. So we said, I will do one, and we've done 1,000. So that's sort of how we started to go down the retail path. We ended up doing tiny houses. Oops, went the wrong way. And I guess these are a couple examples. I guess we couldn't find, this one was, we did that guy pulled that one away with a little Prius. We do a lot of retail stuff. Yeah, I couldn't find the one with the picture with the Prius. And we've done, again, just hundreds and hundreds of custom tiny houses.
Do you guys manufacture the trailers, or do you source them?
Partners. So we have a couple. We've had a couple of the guys that manufacture for us. We design them, or we help them with the design, and we'll source that for the customer, and then we'll build on top. So we've customized some of those to work with steel,
okay.
Thermal bridging, and those things to make the worst thing about a tiny house. If you can see that trailer,
right.
You've got a thermal bridging issue.
Right.
So our steel is easy to solve. That's just like when you use metal in commercial construction, but doing tiny houses is a little more challenging. But I'm going to let Jayson talk. So Jayson does all the work. That's he literally, when he came over to Dubai, I think when he was 18, so he came over, we started to do those pocket shops, and I'd work a regular job during the day, and we'd go out, we'd roll the steel, we'd climb around shopping centers in the middle of the night, putting those things in. I'd go out in the morning, talk to the mall operators and lieutenants, and go get, and then, Jayson ended up very quickly running the crew, running that business. And as we were doing that, what we realized was, if you go to buy a machine, whether you're talking to FrameCAD, Howick, Scottsdale, any of the guys, they're great. There's a handful of great machines. They'll tell you they're magic. You just put the steel in the back of it and money spits out the front of it. But you also find lots of those machines sitting idle all over the country. So it's not that easy. And one of the guy we were working with there has more machines than anybody else in the world, because emerging markets, one, they're open to new technology. They don't have the baggage that we have here in the US, that this is the way we've always done it. I'm working on a project in Saudi now that it's got 600,000 houses. It's got, it's the size of Paris. It's all out of the desert, and they have to figure out how to pour 1,600 trucks of concrete every day. So when you're trying to solve those kinds of problems, you're looking for the best solution. You're not going, well, how did we do the last project? It's a blank piece of paper, and you have to, you bring in the world's, best to go and figure those things out. So it's a great environment to go work in, and that's where, it's always. I think when we got our machine, there were like 12 in the country, and we've seen a lot of things. And it's the world's most advanced framing system, but telling the U.S. is still the hardest market to go push that into. Now that's why the fires are an interesting opportunity, because the world's watching and America's watching, and it's a solution that has to happen quick. So it's a great time. Well, it's a great time for you guys to be in California, because there's a lot of work to do. We have another business that we're doing, a housing startup, but the housing challenge is pretty real. But I'll let Jayson sort of tell you how he started in design, because that was one point of that story, was that we realized that if you don't control the design, that's where the machine, it's really cool. There's the brawn on top, the brain on the bottom, and it's amazing. But if you don't design it right, if you don't design it to make sure it doesn't jam, because when you're doing, that many projects, it's the making sure that, Jayson can talk you through all the things that we do to make sure that it gets designed right, gets out of the machine, gets loaded, gets to the site in one piece. That's kind of the magic. The machine, none of it happens without the machine, but there's a little more to it.
Thanks for having us, guys. My name's Jayson. So I'm going to circle back to the pocket shop stuff, because that's where I got started. I learned the FrameCAD software in 2011, 2012, I think. I was probably the first one to walk into the FrameCAD office, and we didn't own a machine at the time. So signed up for the course, and they were questioning the entire time why we're doing it. As Mark said, one of the most important things when operating and making these machines actually turn out an ROI within a business perspective is the control that you have and the ability to either make it a contractor's best day ever assembling something or their worst day. So we were developing pocket shops in Dubai at the time, and we didn't have that design control. So I taught myself the FrameCAD Detailer software. At the time it was called Pro got rolled into Structure. I found that I had most control of the Detailer software, and what it allowed us to do is on these modular retail stores that we were putting up in one night and then taking down in a night is we could control the hardware. So instead of having to use fasteners to get the walls up and erected, we'd be able to create custom bracketry, utilize bolt hole punching, service hole tooling, and all the other tools that you guys have available in the software to be able to optimize assembly. So instead of just thinking things in the traditional sense, we could incorporate different design enhancements into the framing that optimize the assembly to get these things up within a night or two and taken down within a night or two, and then indefinitely reused on multiple retail locations and multiple retail vendors. We came back in, I think, 2015. 2015, we had the intention of doing these pop-up retail stores and pocket shops throughout the US, and at the time there was a internet personality and TV personality that made a YouTube video of him building a tiny house utilizing FrameCAD technology. So we started getting calls and eventually said yes. And that was my first time designing a small structure for residential purposes with the FrameCAD Detailer software. The original builder came out, we swapped the trailer for a frame. I think we rolled his first unit, saw that we could make some enhancements, made some changes in the software real quick. We rolled that tiny house, I think, in a day. Mark flew in from Dubai at the time. We threw it onto a trailer and we drove it from Austin to Portland, Oregon with no sheathing, no finishes, and just draw a raw open frame across the United States. They put us in the back of the trade show. We had logos on our shirts, and it was still very granola and flannels at the time in the tiny house industry. But there was a builder that we established a relationship. We sold it on the show, and that kick-started what Volstrukt has evolved into today. We've done over 850 tiny houses on wheels. In 2019, the Senate bill was passed to allow accessory dwelling units in the United States, in California, and started becoming more popular in the US right after that. So we saw an opportunity to start targeting the 400 to 1,200 square foot size range. I think what the tiny house movement allowed us to do is work with all of these builders and subcontractors on a variety of different projects and understand the pain points of the subcontractors, the builders, and to experience all of the little learning opportunities that you have on an unpermitted project that's a smaller footprint where mistakes have a minimal cost associated with them before we went and dove into 5,000 square foot houses or 15,000 square foot commercial structures and beyond. Over that time of doing all the tiny houses as well, you start understanding what the powers are of the machine, and duplication is key, but through all of the tooling and experience, we started doing mezzanines, lofts, dog houses, tree houses, pontoon boats, decks, and anything that you could, picnic tables and benches. I know I've seen some FrameCAD tables throughout the building here, and so when you own some of those machines, you'll find that everything in your house turns into steel very quickly, as in ours. But it was really a cool way to do something that was different, and I think a lot of our client base understands what all the value is of steel framing and what that unlocks in the power of residential construction and commercial construction. So jumping back into COVID, we started diving into the accessory dwelling units a little bit more. I worked in, I have a lot of personal connections and friends that are in the real estate industry. I did some real estate stuff for a little while as well. And I saw the ADU Senate bill that was passed be the natural evolution of tiny houses into smaller, more attainable single-family residential structures. What we were doing with the pocket shops in Dubai, the cool thing of that is you had to incorporate all of the cabinet fixtures, right, drop-in ceilings, POS systems, signage, electrical, and optimize that in a way that we could install these units in 2 nights, right, in a night or two, and think through everything that had to happen when you were under a time crunch, because when 6 a.m. came around and they're kicking all the contractors out of the shopping mall, and they had to be open by 8 a.m., you had to be tools down and ready to go. So speed was something that we initially learned when we were doing the pop-up retail stores, and is now the same design methodology. Mark and I will regularly use the word material-led design. It allows you to design, what the FrameCAD technology can do is you can design a room to be 12 foot 1 on 2 of the walls and 12 foot in the other direction, so you're just perfectly cutting that sheet of drywall in half, and you can minimize the amount of waste, not only from a framing perspective, if you guys have seen the machine operate, which I think you did at the beginning of the semester, all the way through all the other subcontractors. So where we've taken the business since then is we've done CNC sheathing packages. We have preset window and doors that we're regularly using with our vendors off the shelf. We can focus on material-led design. So if your cedar planks that we're going are 8 foot lengths or 12 foot lengths, we can incorporate that into the framing and build that material buildup the way that it should be to minimize the amount of cuts that are in the project. How I've kind of evolved and I utilize the FrameCAD technology in my own life now, just a little bit of real estate experience, is from a development perspective. We have a couple of projects in Austin that we're doing right now, but we purchased a handful of lots and we're taking advantage of the ADU laws that recently passed, the ordinance change in last November, 2 Novembers ago, implemented in April, where we can now build 3 single-family residential structures on a single lot, similar to what you guys were able to do in California in 2019. The code is a little bit different, but the concept is exactly the same on being able to take lot costs, reduce those into a third, and there was an opportunity for there to be an upside on the back end of the project. On my personal projects, because I understand what the detailer software has the ability to do, is that not only thinking about how it can come out of the machine, which is really important, without creating paper jams and steel. So you guys are fortunate to not have to take the entire machine apart to get that piece of steel out. That's something that I had to do for many years, so I have quite a bit of empathy for the guys in the shop. And all of our designers have been required to take the machine apart if they create a paper jam. So they understand what the pain point of that is. Then it goes into the assembly process. You start looking into cavities where you can't get drills. You start figuring out that you can't get hold downs into certain locations because you don't leave enough spaces in between those stud cavities, all the way through sheathing, windows, doors. And so while we're developing this kit house business, I get to act as a bit of a, drink the Kool-Aid that we're creating and understand what the pain points are for our consumers through all of the trades outside of that framing process by itself. And what I fast forward to this year, we're at over 1,100 projects. We're almost at 1,200 projects between the tiny houses, the commercial stuff, some mixed use, 5,000 square foot residential houses. We've done some really iconic tree houses and short-term rental developments throughout Austin and throughout the US. And you can take this knowledge that you guys are learning in this class and apply that into any sub-niche category within the construction industry and even outside of that. Whether you have a chicken coop business or a doghouse business, or you're building unique tables, mezzanines, it could be mixed-use developments, residential developments. The magic is in the design. It's absolutely in the design. And how great of an experience or how far you can scale your business is fully in control of what you have the ability to do on the machine by thinking through all of the other trades that are in the project. Am I missing stuff?
No, I don't know. We don't know what's in here.
Yeah.
Just click on some stuff.
That's my history. I guess I'm 12 or 13 years working with the FrameCAD software. I've definitely learned quite a bit over that amount of time. This was something that we did back in 2020, 2021. If you guys have seen this video, this is that 1,200 square foot frame that we stood in a day. Fast forward to 2022, the white and cedar, the lap siding and cedar structure is an Airbnb we did for what's now a friend of ours, and it was a 1,050 square foot Airbnb that we did in about 4.5 months for $200,000 all in. I think he paid it off in about 18 months based off of the revenue. We flat stack a lot of our steel, and this photo in the bottom right, we've been able to work with a lot of modular builders. We've worked with prefab builders, sauna companies, cold plunge companies, different retail brands and things like that. Where we're going at the moment is the panelized kit system, because it doesn't disrupt the design review process, the permitting process. Inspectors are used to on-site builds, and everybody in that office gets to keep their job. The inspectors get to keep their job. They're familiar with seeing the on-site stick builds. Then insurance companies are also used to that. Appraisers are used to that. And then when you jump into the prefab and modular world, it's still very new. So you can potentially be deducted by doing something new and creative, especially when you're the first one that does that. And so by switching stuff into the kit house model, which is what Sears did in the mid-1900s, when they were the first company that had access to mills and the railroad system and a printing press, as they started doing that. Resources for you guys. We are here as a resource. The more the merrier. We need to be building an extra 1,000 houses a day. Our mission as a business is to contribute to the 1,000 houses that we're missing and not take away from what the traditional stick frame builders, modular guys, prefab guys are doing. We want to be adding into that smaller footprint and make a dent in attainable housing in a real way. And you can take it as far as you guys want to go. I think there's a lot of flexibility. It's really easy to get caught up in the thinking of, how everything has been done for the last century in the residential construction industry. And I think we've done a very good job at stretching our minds a little bit into not only the way residential construction is done, but we've been able to work with amazing companies, brands, and clients across multiple industries where they've found a use for this FrameCAD technology. And we're still here today, making revenue. So that's our fifth.
Might be one more. I think that's the end of the one more. And then any questions?
Yeah. Any questions? I mean, just going back one.
One more. I think there's the Ed's house is in there.
Ed's house is in there. What I think also is a big opportunity in what's going to happen over the next decade is we're losing tradesmen, as Mark was saying. We're losing framers. So you have the ability to tap into a market that the average age on a job site is 56 years old. They've been in the trades for 30 plus years. They don't really want to change, and it's not like anybody that's coming out of college at the moment is going into traditional stick-built framing. So that's everything from design and engineering roles for residential, mixed use, and commercial projects. I think that project management is going to be a crucial key. We've been able to create shipping lists and labels. We understand how to break these panels for shipping and handling. So inherently we become logistics experts by accident. And myself, just real estate development. You have the ability to use the technology for your own interests and create businesses out of all of that. And it can look like,
So we can take a picture of you.
Yeah. Of course. But that's the quick summary. We appreciate you guys listening. I remember when I was still in school, I didn't have the biggest appetite for learning, and I wish I did. Because if I would have started younger, I can't complain about what I've been able to accomplish, working with this technology and having all the opportunities that presents itself and all the brands that we've been able to work with has been pretty incredible. And it all started by taking my first FrameCAD Detailer class in 2011 or 2012. And I can say that I've overseen 1,000 houses get built, and there's not a lot of people that can do that, and all of the different brands that we've worked with. And this is a 5,000 square foot residential, or 4,800 square foot residential structure that we did in Canyon Lake. And so it doesn't have to look like it's got steel inside. I hope you guys are developing a camper at the moment. Is that what the project
everyone's
is?
got a camper trailer that they're creating.
So I've designed quite a few campers and too many tiny houses to count. But I want to see some of these creative designs and what you guys have the ability to come up with. And again, if you guys have questions, there's enough to do to keep everybody in this class busy for the rest of their life. So.
You guys can say no, but
You can say no.
guys are more than welcome to help me do my desk prints tonight. Check out their progress so far. I'm sure they would love to hear some feedback.
We can absolutely hang out for a minute and take a look.
Yeah, do you guys want to hear some feedback on your camper trailer from the pros?
You can say no. I would have said no as well.
Sometimes it's just motivational. That you do.
But yeah.
I've only made one.
I was gonna put it to test and see how quickly you could draw, because I'm guessing it would be incredibly quick.
Oh, like in detailers is drawing out there?
This is the,
I'm an
What do you think?
anomaly.
Can we do that?
I could probably design a 200 square foot tiny house in under 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh, should we do that? Anybody want to see that? Okay.
Yes, we'd love to see that.
If you're really down to do that, I would screen record it if that's okay, and you can.
I'll try. I'm rusty now. It's been a few years, but I'll give it a go. I'm not on the computer much anymore.
Let's give these guys a round of applause for their presentation.